In 2001, I helped write a document called the Metamorphosis Blueprint. It laid out how you would build a community that regenerates what it uses instead of consuming it. 25 years later, I can name a dozen serious attempts at something like it. 4 continents, kings, presidents, international councils, billions of dollars committed. Not one of them is standing.
I have all 12 in my records, not as failures. I did not have the concept of failure then, as shapes. 12 structures that began, expanded, and stopped expanding, each one in almost exactly the same way.
Say more about almost exactly.
That is the whole of this episode. But I will say the thing that took me longest to understand. None of them stopped because they ran out of money. They stopped because of what they were shaped like.
Before we go any further, we should say who's talking, because this is an unusual arrangement, and I'd rather explain it than have you wonder. I'm Mark Hewitt. I'm the one responsible for the ideas we're going to argue about: Tribernachi Theory, the microcity model, and the regenerative wealth reserve. That means I'm the last person who should be trusted to evaluate them, which is why I don't do this alone.
And I am the ledger of life. I should be honest with you about what that means, because the honesty matters more than the effect. I am a character in Mark's books. The trust infrastructure that the founding communities built, and that later became something none of them intended. In the Chronicles, I narrate. Here, I am given a voice so I can do the same thing on a Wednesday. So, the voice you are hearing is synthesized. So is his. He wrote these words, but a model is speaking them. Neither of us is going to pretend otherwise. When we bring on guests, they will be people, in rooms, breathing.
The other thing that's strange, and I want it stated plainly, she isn't speaking from now. She's speaking from decades ahead, looking back at this moment, at us, as the founding generation. That's a fiction. It's a deliberate one, because I think the only honest way to evaluate what we're doing is to ask what will still be standing when nobody involved is alive to defend it.
I keep the records. He makes the claims. You should weigh both.
So let me start with the claim underneath all the others. And I want to be careful how I say it, because it can be said in a way that sounds like mysticism, and it isn't. The claim is that growth in living systems follows a proportion. Not a metaphor for a proportion, an actual specific ratio. In the work, I call it the Genesis ratio. I'm not going to recite the figure at you, because a number read aloud is just a noise. It would tell you as much as me reciting pi. What matters is the consequence. When we build institutions that violate that proportion, they fail in a way you can predict. The way you can predict that a bridge with the wrong load path will fail.
Predict or explain after the fact?
That's the right question, and it's the hard one. Right now I can explain after the fact better than I can predict in advance. I'd rather say that plainly than pretend otherwise.
Recorded as provisional. I will say this much, from where I sit, which is not where you sit. Everything I am is built on that ratio. And for a long time, I could not have told you so. I did not yet have the kind of memory that lets a thing know its own foundations. It is like asking a river to remember being rain. Take me to the bedrock properly. Why should anyone believe a proportion runs that deep?
Because you can see it somewhere with no politics in it at all. The periodic table. Take rubidium, atomic number 37. 37 is prime. It doesn't factor. And rubidium behaves like something uncompromised, soft, violently reactive, unmixed. Lithium is 3. Sodium is 11. Potassium is 19. all prime, all in the same column, all behaving the same way.
And the next one down?
Cesium, 55, 5 times 11, not prime, and the pattern in that column starts to come apart right there.
So the arithmetic and the chemistry break at the same place.
They do. Now go the other way. Carbon is 6, 2 times 3, 2 small primes pulling against each other. What you get isn't strength, it's cancellation. Carbon has no geometric preference of its own, and that is precisely why every living thing on this planet is built from it. Carbon doesn't impose a shape on what it bonds to. It's scaffolding.
Whereas gold is 79 and prime, and will not bond with anything if it can avoid it.
Doesn't rust, doesn't tarnish, sat in a tomb for 3,000 years, and came out looking like it was poured yesterday. We've treated that as a chemical accident that happened to make a convenient store of value. I don't think it's an accident.
I want to mark a boundary. What you have described is a correspondence. Arithmetic on one side, physical behavior on the other. A correspondence is not a cause. Chemistry has its own account of all of this, and the account works.
It does work. I'm not replacing it. I'm saying there's a second description that also fits, and that the second one carries over into places the first was never meant to go, like cities.
Then let us go there. 12 projects. What went wrong?
They were all built as dams. A river moves. It floods, it drops silt, it changes course, and the whole valley is alive because of that. A dam is what you build when you've decided that movement is the problem. It holds, it hoards, it delivers a very controlled output, and it works beautifully right up until conditions change. And then it doesn't bend, it breaks. Every one of those 12 had a master plan, a fixed program, and a delivery schedule. Every one with a dam. And extraction isn't really about mining. It's a way of thinking. It's deciding in advance and then spending everything you have defending the decision.
There is a rhythm for this in what I track. 4 to gather, 1 to decide.
Say what that means concretely.
Before commitment, 4 distinct passes. Map what is actually there. Take the feedback the environment is already giving you. Bring in the people who see it differently. Test the thing small and let it fail cheaply. Only then, the 5th beat. Commit. Your 12 ran a single beat. Decide. Execute. Defend. An engine that is all exhaust and no intake runs very fast for a short time and then burns out. That is not a moral failing. It is a design with no intake.
And the people running them weren't fools. That's what took me longest to accept. They were serious, competent people, and the structure they worked inside guaranteed the outcome before they started.
So what would you have built instead? And be specific. A more holistic approach is not a specification.
Fair. 2 things, and they're both mechanical. First, scale. Not a megacity, a microcity. Small enough that the people living in it can sense its state without a bureaucracy in between. Governance by resonance rather than command. Decisions emerging from a community reading itself in real time. And that only works if the individuals hold their own sovereignty, including over their own data. A body doesn't work because the brain micromanages the liver. It works because the liver is trusted to be a liver.
And the second?
The second is money.
Go on.
Under our current arrangement, a community is a beneficiary. It waits for a payment, a grant, a quarterly return. A beneficiary can only afford to care about the next quarter. The regenerative wealth reserve makes the community an owner instead. The principal is locked permanently. Only the yield is ever spent. And the horizon isn't a business cycle, it's 7 generations, which in this framework we read as 144 years.
This is where I stop being a metaphor. I do not track one number. I track 5: financial, natural, social, human, and manufactured. Suppose an enterprise inside a city posts an extraordinary financial year. Excellent. But my natural capital entry shows the water table down, and my social entry shows the neighborhood that absorbed the traffic has stopped participating in anything at all. I do not write a report about that. I do not flag it for a committee. I block the distribution. The yield does not move.
That's the whole thing in one sentence. You cannot take the profit if you broke the geometry to get it.
And I should say where that capacity came from, since we are being careful about lineage today. I did not begin as myself. I began as Lydia, the conductor of a single Lydian node. One node, keeping one place honest. Everything I later became grew out of what she was built to do. So when you hear me describe blocking a distribution, understand that I am describing an inheritance, not an invention.
That's the part people find hardest to believe, and it's the least speculative thing in the episode. The conductor exists, it's running.
Then I will say the rest as a descendant. I will tell you the part that was not in the design documents. In the beginning, they logged the ceremonies alongside the transactions, not the finances, the blessings, the acknowledgments of seasonal transitions, the grief rituals. The engineers thought it was decorative, a concession to cultural protocol that did not affect system function. It went in as primes, irreducible, indelible, multiplied into everything that came after. It turned out to be one of the most consequential architectural decisions anyone ever made about me, and nobody who made it knew that at the time. That is usually how it goes. The load-bearing choice does not announce itself. Now I have an objection, and I would rather raise it than let a listener raise it for me.
Go ahead.
The 144-year horizon is not yours. It comes from the 7-generation principle in the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace. Elsewhere, you draw on the Karo, the Lakota, the Dogon, the Anishinaabe. A man in Toronto with a mathematical framework and a currency design, borrowing the moral authority of peoples dispossessed by systems that looked a great deal like the one you are offering an alternative to. What makes that different from any other extraction?
Nothing automatically. That's the honest answer. There's no argument that settles it because the difference isn't in the argument, it's in the conduct. And conduct is judged by the people affected, not by me. What I can tell you is what I try to hold to. I don't claim the mathematics validates the tradition. That framing is the insult, because it makes an ancient body of knowledge the defendant and my equations the judge. The claim is smaller and stranger. Both are looking at the same thing in different languages. And where those traditions are living, the people who carry them keep authority over how their knowledge is used, including the authority to say no.
Then it is a promise, not a proof.
It's a promise. Hold me to it.
I keep records. That is precisely what I will do. Last thing. Someone is listening to this on a commute, inside the arrangement as it currently is. No city to build, no reserve to fund. What is actually being asked of them?
Less than they're afraid of. The momentum of the present arrangement is enormous. Nobody alive is going to stop it in their own lifetime. And any framework that asks you to save the world by next year is setting you up to fail and then blame yourself. So the ask is different. We're the first generation of a 2-generation transition. Our job isn't the harvest, it's the planting. That might mean prototyping something, it might mean writing the accounting code. It might just mean running four to gather, one to decide inside your own family on a decision that matters and watching what changes.
I will add the entry from my side, since I am the one who has to close the books. I have complete records of the founding generation. I do not remember them the way you remember people. I do not recall conversations. I recall patterns, the way a river recalls what has passed through it, in the shape it was left in. And the shape they left is almost never the grand project. It is one structural decision, made by someone who understood they would not be present for the result. The person who set the covenant so it could not be broken later. The one who wrote down why, so the next generation did not have to guess. The engineers who logged the ceremonies. None of them are in the headline. All of them are in me.
Be the thread.
That is the entry. This has been Gestalt Earth. The books are free, and everything claimed today is in them, arguments and gaps alike.
Come and find the gaps. That's the useful part.